I am very, very excited to introduce our next guest for the Pride of Detroit podcast. He is a Hall of Famer. He is one of the many Lions legends who have sported that number 20 on the front of his Honolulu blue jersey. It's Barry freaking Sanders. Barry, how you doing today, man?
I'm great, man. I'm great. Great to be here. What are you guys up to?
Oh, man, just getting ready for the season. Very, very exciting time to be a Detroit Lion. And I think the beginning of any regime is pretty exciting. And I want to start there. Your thoughts on the new regime, the Lions. We know the players it's going to take time to kind of build up that roster. But I want to focus on the coaching staff because I feel like that's where the future lies, right? Is how good this coaching staff is. They have a bunch of former players. Dan Campbell's a very charismatic guy. What are your thoughts on the new regime in terms of the leadership?
No, I'm excited about it. I do want to acknowledge that, whenever you have a new regime, that means, you got some challenges as well, because they're the only, as an example, they're the only new coaching staff in our division, so we got some challenges, but I am excited about Coach Campbell and the staff that he's assembled. I think when you think about a young team, that hasn't had a lot of success, you want to try to assist them and give them the best resources possible, and there's no greater resource, obviously, than players that have been on the field and certain types of players, right? You don't want to just former players, but you look at Deuce Daly as an example, as a running back, a lot of great years under Andy Reid as a player. He competed hard, and one of those just solid NFL players. Coach Campbell the same way, just a hard-nosed player that played many years, and a guy who could really identify with the players and communicate well with them, and really identify with them, so on down the list of assistant coaches. So yeah, I think this is really just what the doctor ordered, and we're all excited about getting started this weekend.
I've seen a lot of people draw comparisons, just maybe more in the personality to Wayne Fontes with Dan Campbell in the way that he can connect to, and he's an entertaining guy. Do you see any of those kind of comparisons there? And what did Fontes mean to you as a coach? Because obviously, he was a guy that I think you admired.
Oh yeah, I mean, he meant the world, man. I mean, it was he was one of those guys where he had been a former player. And was very, very just comfortable with around players. And it felt more like, sometimes when the player coach dynamic is more like father son, almost. With Coach Fonte, it was more like uncle,
Yeah.
cool, funny uncle. And so yeah, I mean, he had that just sort of personality that he was he knew when to be serious, right? But he also just knew as well when to be light and then not be so serious. So he was definitely one of those guys who was thought of as a player coach. So yeah, I mean, so to the extent that Coach Campbell's been there, that's kind of how he comes across. Recently removed from the game. And a lot of players can identify with him. So hopefully there are more comparisons down the road with Wayne Fontes, and even better. So that's what I'm looking forward to.
Barry, I wanted to ask this more about kind of the NFL in general right now. Obviously, we've seen the running back position really evolve over the past, I'd say 5, 6, 7 years or so. There's a lot more running back by committee. There's a lot less. There's some great stars out there like Derrick Henry, but they feel like they're kind of breaking the mold. A lot more of these guys are pass catching rather than taking, 30 handoffs a game. How have you seen kind of the position evolve? Do you think it's in a good place? Do you think how different is it from when you were playing?
Yeah, it's certainly different, but I think it's almost starting to come back around to really featuring certain running backs. You mentioned Derrick Henry. I don't think there's been any more dominant player in the NFL outside of Patrick Mahomes last couple of years than Derrick Henry. So I don't know if so yeah, I think Derrick, I think he should be around that $400 million mark as well. Like Patrick Mahomes. That's a different conversation. But also look at I think about guys like Zeke Elliott, guys like Alvin Kamara, the Jacobs kid in Oakland. I mean, the list goes on and on about, running backs that are making their mark. Even last year's Super Bowl champion, Ronald Jones, Leonard Fournette were a very valuable piece of that team's offensive success, in the regular season and playoffs. But there's certainly more of an emphasis now on passing. You got to have a passing game. You got to have a quarterback. You got to have top-notch receivers. And we understand that. But I also think, to answer your question, that there's a lot of running backs in the game that are making a great name for themselves, and that are a very valuable piece of their offensive schemes.
Who's maybe a name that we haven't really heard too much about? You mentioned Josh Jacobs in there, and he's pretty well known. Derrick Henry. Is there someone else that you kind of look to in the game right now and you see like, all right, that's a lot of me right there?
Well, to answer the first part of the question, I don't know if I would say a lot of me, but Jonathan Taylor had a good year last year. Mm-hmm. Jonathan Taylor with Indy had a great year, anyways, but Jonathan Taylor was a big part of that. Yeah. So I think he's another running back to watch. I'm looking forward to what DeAndre Swift does. I thought he transitioned well to the pro game. You always wonder about, whether the running back speed and ability to break tackles and just make plays and, will happen. And so I think, obviously for us Lions fans, we're really looking forward to seeing how well he really figures into this Lions offense this year.
Yeah, that transitions well into my question, because we've been fooled before here in Detroit. There's been a lot of running backs that have run through this town since you've been around. Amir Abdullah, Kerryon Johnson, Javid Best. Not that those guys weren't talented;
Reggie.
They were extremely talented guys. But it didn't really work out here in Detroit in terms of creating like a top 10 running offense. Is there anything you've seen out of Swift or maybe the offensive line or the scheme that makes you think this could be different this year?
Well, like I said, Swift, played very well. I think he met expectations last year.
Yeah.
Obviously with Jared Goff, the addition of Jared Goff, we have high hopes for him. I thought we looked good this preseason. I mean, you can only judge so much from preseason games. But I also want to be honest about the challenges. Like I said before, I mean, we're the new coaching staff, the only new coaching staff in the division. We've been toward the bottom in defense the last couple years. You're looking at the stats. Teams can almost say, yeah, we're going to gain 400 yards plus when we play the Lions, and then you're at the bottom defensively, in the middle of the pack offensively. Well, that math just doesn't add up very well. So we got to start off this year. Hopefully, Goff will develop good chemistry with the receivers and we can stay healthy. And those guys can play with a chip on their shoulder, understanding that they're going against one of the league's best players in Aaron Rodgers. And even aside from Aaron Rodgers, look how solid the Bears and the Vikings have been over the last few years. So we got to strap it up from day one, like we have something to prove in our division. And hopefully these guys can make a name for themselves.
So Barry, I know you're working with a new campaign with Pepsi called the Made for Lions Watching campaign. Tell me more about that. I've seen the commercial. I see you doing some juking, which always gets me excited to see that back on TV. Tell me what your partnership is about.
Absolutely. Well, the Pepsi Made for Lions Watching campaign really just celebrates loyal fans and their preparation for game day with the best fuel and food and Pepsi possible. And so, we know that there's nothing like the combo of Pepsi, food, and football. And so that's really what it is. And so we've created a lot of cool content, where I actually get virtually come into fans' homes and help them with a few recipes, like the Pepsi glazed ribs, which I recommend everyone try. So yeah, that's what it is. We want to celebrate our loyal fans and all the stuff they do in preparation for game day, whether it's in the kitchen or at their favorite tailgate.
All right, Barry, real quick, last question I have for you here. I've heard a lot about your tales about how you like to find places to sleep, that you would sleep through position meetings and everything. But Lomas Brown has apparently told us that you used to sleep on the sidelines. I want to know, like, A, is that true? And B, how are you managing to sleep through all that kind of noise?
You know what? I resent Lomas for these kind of rumors. But no, I think for me, it was one of those things where I used to try to just really get relaxed, and just kind of think about what I wanted to do. And sometimes I would close my eyes, and I think they, they assumed I was sleeping.
You just had your eyes closed.
No, yeah. Well, if we're talking about in a meeting room, yes. In a meeting, some of the meetings, yes, I'll fight those off. But
sleep's important for growth. Sleep's important for growth. I said sleep is important for growth. Yeah.
All right, Barry, thank you so much for your time. Always good to talk to Lions legends, and I'm glad to hear that you're involved with the team. You're excited about the team. I think we can all agree that there might be some bumps in the road ahead, but we appreciate your time. And to everyone listening, go to madeforlionswatching.com for more information on his campaign with Pepsi. Barry, thanks again for joining us.
Gentlemen, great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thank you very much, Barry.